Hello and welcome to a video discussing the Tara Reade situation with the former Vice President Joe Biden. Now, let's get into this. When talking about this topic, it makes people like myself uncomfortable simply because I don't like the woman's name. But to get over that point, I believe that it is very pertinent to keep in mind what are we setting as a precedent. The allegations from Christine Blasey Ford on Supreme Court Justice um, Brett Kavanaugh is to be seen as something that was very pivotal in the national lexicon in terms of people believing or in the Me Too movement or other things like that. So to the point that you can noticeably see the difference in the atmosphere of society nowadays. So let's cover this topic. In 2018, there was this false accusation against a partisan Republican conservative Supreme Court nominee by a Democrat woman who did not have solid proof that ended up in him getting the nomination. So, in which case, I believe that you shouldn't believe all women because the senators didn't. Now, let's go to the present. We have an accusation from 1993. That accusation basically goes that Tara Reade, this 20-something-year-old at the time when Biden was in his 50s, was groped and harassed by Biden, penetrated, etc., and told that she meant nothing and that he was playing it off. There was some sort of deal. She was laid off, and she stayed quiet but did report it. Now, she does have a couple witnesses, but she did change her story. But if we know anything at all about information regarding, traumatic experiences, you're going to remember it differently. So it makes sense that the story would have changed a little bit. But when we look at the different points of evidence, they do not hold up in a court of law, nor does it hold up in a lot of places in terms of people's opinion. But what it does do is slowly deteriorate the character, so-called, of Joseph Biden. Now, Joe Biden is not known as a conservative guy. Nobody would accuse Mike Pence of sexual assault. But when somebody accuses Biden of that, unless you have a cognitive dissonance or you've not been paying attention, you would automatically give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, is this girl a Democrat? Yes. Is she a Bernie bro? Yes. But that's probably because she hates Biden that much. So let's go into this topic. When we have a credible threat, what is a credible accusation? Well, we have proof. Now it is breaking even that she is apparently wanting him to do a polygraph test, not her. Not only that, but that in 1996, while she was getting divorced. Of course, she got divorced. Her husband actually mentioned that she was harassed in Joe Biden's office and that she was stressed from that. So that clearly somewhat proves it. So it means that she could have lied about it 25 years ago and has been consistently for over a quarter century, or she's telling the truth. Now, we examine the character of Joe Biden and we see a guy who clearly does not have the mental fortitude to not to withhold affection, right? He even, people that are Democrats would acknowledge that he is gropey, that he's in particular very, very uncomfortable to women, I think, in regards to hugging them too long and breathing on their neck, and this isn't a thing where he grabs old women or middle-aged women, but it is girls too. Now, he isn't gay, so he has that going on, but in regards to being somewhat of a perv, then of course he is. And is he creepy? Yes. Is he Uncle Joe for a reason? Yes. So he does not have the character to which you could say, well, it's him. So it seems like the court of public opinion is shifting against him. Now, what is so important about this case? Well, it is that he wants to deny it all he wants. And look, he is demented, so what if he forgot? That's what people will say, but keep this in mind. He damn well knows what he did. If not to her, then many other women. So by a girl that probably got harassed by him 25 years ago, if a girl did that, then there's probably many others that are silent or that he got away with. Because look at what he's done in public, on camera, next to Obama or in the Senate chamber, right? Imagine what he's capable of doing when the cameras are not on. So this goes to show that he clearly does not have a sort of moral compass to that extent that it's rules for thee and not for me. So he is not a man of character. Well, what does that mean? He's not a man of character. Well, whatever. No, it does matter, because if you're going back to normalcy, as I explained in my last video about neoliberalism 101, then you would value what you are. So, for example, if you are voting against Trump because he's a bad guy, or that he's a pervert, or that he's a sexual assaultee, supposedly, then you wouldn't vote for Joe Biden either, because he has more credible claims than Trump himself over, Tara Reade, right? So clearly, this estimates his character, one thing that he had going on for him to begin with. So, and it's not a necessarily partisan thing, as there's people on the left hating on Biden, and all the people that are supporting him are not supporting him because they genuinely think he's innocent. It is because they have a cognitive dissonance, and they're trying to ride their way through a turbulent 2020 election cycle
I
nowadays.
might add, if you ever
So,
come to the train
what is
station
this?
with me, you'll notice that
What is this
I have great
video about,
relationships
really?
with them
It is to
because
say,
there's an awful lot of driving cabs.
surely
The president
Tara
has
Reade
a
is
big
helping
stake.
out
For real,
Republicans and
I'm
is
not-
helping
I'm
out
not being
Trump, but
solicitous,
at what
I'm being
cost
serious.
to the national
Got a lot of
expression,
thanks
or
to
the
give out
national
here.
Overton
First and
window? What is
foremost
that
to
to say?
my
Well, it is to say
perfect wife.
that, are we going to say, well, you believe Christine Blasey Ford, so you should believe Tara Reade? No, of course not, because then it'll snowball. Right now, we're lucky that the anger is at a Democrat, but when it's at a Republican, the Democrats will then say, hey, well, weren't you on Joe Biden's tail for being a perv? Well, look at this candidate. That's exactly the problem. So, should we believe all women? Of course not. Should we believe women with evidence? Yes. Should we look at at the character of either person, the accusee and the person being accused? Right. The accuser needs to be seen as a person who was viable for interrogation themselves. What do I say with that? It means to say, if Tara Reade were some opportunistic prostitute that worked with, like if it were Stormy Daniels, for example, then people are not going to believe her, even if it did happen. Why? Because of the lack of character of that person. Same goes to the other way. If Joe Biden were an upstanding guy, if he were Mike Pence, who was celibate as you can be, then the roles would be completely different. So it's a case by case basis. You need to say, a woman accuses somebody of something. Well, we'll see what the character of either of them are. If a woman has a low credibility rating, then it should work like a credit card score, kind of like, look, you make up a lot of lies. You have a bad reputation. You are opportunistic. So maybe don't look into those claims, or at the very least say, I have this in mind. She has a chip on her shoulder. I won't trust her as much. Same thing with men. If a guy who's being accused pervs on little girls and pervs on politicians and pervs on people on camera, then of course he's viable to do this off camera as well. So, like I said, this denigrates Biden either way, even if he didn't do it, which I think he did actually do it. I do believe Tara Reade. I stand with Biden to the extent that he's innocent until proven guilty. Now, he doesn't need to be proven guilty. He just needs to be proven probably guilty by the audience, by the court of public opinion. That's what necessarily matters. Okay? It doesn't matter if Trump's actually a racist, but the fact that half of the country thinks he is what matters, okay? Understand that the perception in politics is more important than the reality, and a lot of times, especially when talking about electoral circumstances and situations and macroeconomics, a lot of the stock market, a lot of the oil industry is very much off the stock of what people think. Okay, use this analogy: if you cut 5% of oil production, the price of oil could go down 20%. Well, that doesn't correspond to the logical supply or demand, but the demand changes radically based on what people think, and it is a sort of like run on the banks kind of type of social dynamic and phenomena. So keep that in mind. You don't need the full evidence to incriminate a man in a lot of people's minds. All you need to do is peel off a substantial little chunk of Joe Biden's base, and you've already secured the election for Donald Trump. Keep that in mind. And thank you guys for watching the video. I appreciate it so much. Like and subscribe. Comment down below if you're interested in refuting anything that I said. So, guys, goodbye.